This video is brought to you by a college graduate who is currently unemployed on purpose. I recently saw the Madagascar movies and I'm thinking about calling my viewers freaks like what King Julian calls the gang. I kinda like that idea, but what do you think? I'm gonna call you guys freaks. Let's see how it feels. Hello freaks! If you saw my Instagram stories from about a couple of weeks ago at the time of me writing this, then you'll know that I recently graduated college! I'd say the overall experience was interesting. I can't say I loved it, but I can't say I hated it either. I'm making this video because I feel like I need to share my experience. I'm gonna talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, and my overall experience and journey as an artist. When I realized I wanted to be an artist, I decided to be a graphic designer because that's what my uncle does. Just keep this in your back pocket for now, we'll come back to this. And yes, while this video is scripted, it's gonna feel a bit disorganized because I just have so much to say and yeah. Let's start with the good. College was the first time I had to get Adobe because one of my first classes was learning how to use Photoshop, Illustrator, and Premiere Pro. Also, here's a tip. If you're a college student and you need Adobe for whatever reason, Adobe has a deal for students where you can use Creative Cloud for a reduced price until you graduate. Honestly, I'd say that college was when my digital art got a very needed upgrade. Okay, I forgot when I bought my drawing tablet, the one that I currently use, but up until then, I was using this really clunky and cheap stylus pen and was drawing on Fire Alpaca. That's why all the art on my channel used to be very bad. But I promise I'm a better artist now. Please don't watch those older videos, just no. Oh yeah, and my second photography class was what led me to buy the camera I use. We did have the option to rent cameras, which I did for my first photography class, but for some reason I decided to buy one. I think it was pre-owned, it wasn't that expensive for a camera. My college had a thing where we had to take at least one class of a certain subject, like in any school, I guess. You know, math, science, English, the works. They were called core classes. Some of them were okay, but others were pretty cool. I don't remember which core or subject this was related to, but I took a class on freaking vampires. Yeah, you heard me right. It was freaking awesome. Maybe history or something, but I don't know. But yeah, that class was a lot of fun, and I learned a lot, like more than I was expecting to about media and tropes and different things. Did you know that Dracula was Russian and Jewish and that vampires are basically everything colonials were afraid of? Yep, I think I still have the notes for that class somewhere. It also gave me some possibly unpopular opinions on Jennifer's body, but we'll shelve that video idea for now. Let me know if you're actually interested in something like that. The English classes I took were pretty cool too. The first one was where I got to write that Book of Life essay I made a video on. I don't remember much of the other core classes I took. For some reason, they wanted you to take 2 science classes, but we'll get to that later. During my first few years of college, I mostly ate at the dining hall that was closest to the building where most of my classes were, and guys, the food was so good. I would usually alternate between some of the same foods whenever I had to eat on campus. The grilled cheese, chicken sandwich, pasta, and pizza. There was also this sweets buffet thing, so I'd occasionally get a little dessert. There was one time I ate a cookie that I don't think it was a sugar cookie. I don't know what flavor it was, but it tasted like not that great. Bad cookie. Speaking of desserts, there was a vending machine in the building I frequented that had a Dippin' Dots machine I'd get from. Well, it wasn't really like Dippin' Dots, it was like that off-brand Dippin' Dots, but you know, it's still Dippin' Dots. I don't think I noticed it right away. That vending machine used to have a Sour Patch ice cream machine, but they switched it at some point. I overall learned a lot about art in every class I took, but obviously I enjoyed some more than others. Oh my goodness, I almost completely forgot about those 2 art history classes I took. We'll get to that in a bit. Something that you learn pretty quickly about art is that it can be pretty pretentious. What do I mean by this? I mean the people who consider a freaking banana duct taped to a wall art. People who consider a toilet seat art. I'm really trying to not sound like a douche, I promise. I know art can be anything, but not everything can or should be art. There was also this creativity class I took that had us dig deep into our souls, and I remember one time we watched a documentary about an artist whose name I forgot, but her art kinda weirded me out a little. I know that the Animaniacs reboot had an episode about her. Artists can be some of the most douchey and pretentious people you'll ever see. None of my classmates were ever like that, mind you, but sometimes you can tell. Again, I'm not trying to sound like a douche, but I feel like you'll know what I mean, especially if you're an artist. When it comes to schedules, I'll agree, morning classes do suck. I took an 8 a.m. psychology class and had to wake up at like 5-ish just to get ready. I was a commuter, by the way. It was pretty annoying when my professor commented on how quiet we all were. Like, ma'am, it is 8 a.m. I literally woke up at the ass crack of dawn just to look presentable. In a way, I also preferred to have schedules that required me to be on campus all day. It wasn't always fun, but it was kind of nice. In between classes, I just got to chill out on my laptop, get some food, maybe get some work done. And yeah, by the end of the day, I was exhausted and dead inside, but I didn't fully mind, especially if I had nowhere to be the next day. The few late night classes I had ended at like 10 p.m. It wasn't too bad though. There was almost never traffic at that time, unlike the early morning and around 6 p.m., which almost always had traffic. Blasting music and driving on the highway at night is honestly such a vibe. And Lana Del Rey. I recommend it. On those nights, I would just go home, have a small snack, shower, and zonk out. As I'm writing this script, I'm remembering classes that I almost completely forgot about. Something that you forget about in college is that everyone around you is an adult. So there's moments where your professors will say a swear word and your classmates will wear something that would have gotten them absolutely nuked in high school. Like, I remember this one time, on Star Wars Day, I saw someone wearing a Grogu onesie, which was awesome. And Halloween was always kind of interesting too. My family doesn't celebrate, but I do appreciate the effort people put into some of the costumes. I remember one year I saw someone dressed as Where's Waldo, and another time I think I saw a girl dressed as Kiki from Kiki's Delivery Service, and someone was dressed in the Ouran High School Host Club uniform. That was pretty cool. I promise there were a lot of good moments in my college years, but I have a lot more to say about the bad. Please don't think I was miserable. I wasn't. I just have more to say about the bad than I do about the good, okay? But please don't, I had fun for the most part, but, yeah. And to end off on the good, a small handful of my professors were from all over the world. This doesn't have anything to do with anything, I just think it's fun to mention the diversity. Okay, now on to the bad. They say that college is the best place to make friends and lifelong memories, and in a way they're right. But what they don't tell you is how hard it is to make friends as a commuter. With how fun college was, it was also a pretty lonely experience for me. After I graduated high school, pretty much all of my friends ghosted me, and I haven't talked to most of them in years. And believe me, I really tried to make friends. In my third semester, I joined the school's D&D club to try and make friends, and as much fun as that was, I was never able to talk to the same person twice. And that was the only semester I could attend that club because it was interfering with my schedule a little too much. I couldn't keep going. By the time I graduated, I didn't have any real friends, just acquaintances. It's a pattern. I would click with someone in class, try to reach out to them outside of class, and then it's like I don't exist. I'm basically Deadeye from Joyride, literally. On a more lighthearted side to this, it was also a time where I started seriously writing fanfiction. I had written fanfiction before college, but this time it felt more serious, I was able to connect with people online, and I engaged with a lot of good stories. I became more active in my fandoms in a way I never had before. And if my parents are watching this, yes, I am safe online. I am safe when it comes to talking to people online. Okay, quick PSA, kids, please be careful online. I've heard that kids nowadays don't have a sense of online safety, and my goodness, just please be smart and careful. You'll get your Instagram hacked if you don't. Trust me, I know. I'm not a woman of math or science. Never have been, never will be. And I had a math tutor for most of my school years, even needing a tutor again when I had to take math in college. I took what looked like the least difficult class they had. There's no way I'm gonna even try to take calculus. That would have literally killed me. But the 2 science classes I had, oh my god. I took astronomy because I thought it would be interesting, but boy, that was a huge mistake. That had to have been my least favorite class. It was so frustrating, and the way my professor taught us was absolute bullcrap. It was basically my professor talking alongside with an almost useless slideshow of pictures with almost no context aside from the pictures. I had no idea what I was supposed to jot down. This class had a lab and we had to work with a partner. My partner, good god, I don't want to be too mean, but I hated working with that guy. At one point, he called me crazy and said that I overthink. Dude, come on. Okay, yes, do I overthink? Every day. Am I crazy? Sometimes. But I'm trying to make sure the work gets done right and before class is over. Excuse me for trying to be a good student. Actually, the day before my birthday when I had this class, my partner was absent and I thought this was an early birthday gift for me. But nope. My professor for the lab took 10 points off of me that day because both partners had to be present for full points. I'm not joking. My next science class without the lab was related to evolution or paleontology or something like that. It wasn't too bad, I guess, but it was still pretty hard. But the astronomy class was the only class I ever wanted to drop. But I didn't. I suffered and barely passed like all my other science classes. The ratio of bad to good professors I've had is thankfully low, but I hated my typography professor. Typography was definitely one of my least favorite subjects. It was just so boring. And I get really mad at myself when I catch myself noticing typography in my life. I hate that I learned something from that class, basically. She was just so frustrating to deal with. Thankfully, I wasn't the only one who felt that way. I'm not gonna go too much into detail with her. She was just extremely frustrating. I feel like she had a weird vendetta against phones. I get that people are generally addicted to their phones, but some teachers and professors are super overkill about it. You know what I'm talking about? She didn't like it when you had your phone out at all. And God forbid you had other things going on that weren't related to her class. She basically wanted her class to be your #1 priority. I've seen her give crap to students for having appointments the same day as her class. And the worst thing about her was that I had her for 3 semesters. At my college, once you get into the graphic design program, some of the same professors pop up for different classes. I overall had 3 of the same professors in the graphic design program. My type professor wasn't a bad person, she was just extremely annoying to deal with. Coming back to food for a second, I don't know what the frick happened, but the dining hall I ate at one day just wasn't good anymore. I think something changed behind the scenes with the providers or something, but the food changed. The sandwiches, pizza, and pasta I turned to were gone, and the pizza just tasted sad that day. This made me be on the hunt for decent food so I wouldn't starve. It was kind of a hassle, honestly. By the time my last semester came around, I just ate at the same Chick-fil-A and Dunkin' that was on campus. There was also a Denny's on campus, but I stopped going because I had one too many not great experiences there. Which is a shame because, again, the fast food was really good. This isn't too much of a bad thing, but my campus was really big and hilly. For some reason, freshmen had to park in this specific parking lot that was pretty far from campus. It probably wasn't as far as I remember, but it felt that way at the time. It wasn't all bad, but walking around campus was torture at times. There was one semester where I had to practically sprint from the art building to the math or science building because I didn't have too much time between classes. And again, this campus had a lot of hills and inclines and stairs. When I got more freedom for where I could park, I would usually park in the parking garage closest to the art building, but that didn't always help with how much I had to walk. Some days I'd enter the class sweaty and tired. I also never used the library on campus. I only went if a class I had was taking place at the library that day for whatever reason, so I pretty much never really knew where the library was. That sort of segues into my next point. My mom has pointed out that I get skinnier at the end of every semester, and that's likely from all the walking I did all over campus, but I also feel like each semester messed up my sleeping and eating habits. I'm the type of person who hates skipping meals. I need food to function throughout the day. I sometimes ate breakfast super early, which made me really hungry before noon. And I didn't always have the chance to have lunch, sometimes just a small snack to quietly eat during class. Some days during the week would just be 2 full meals with some snacks in between. And then I sometimes had to wake up super early, but only on some days during the week. Even now as I'm writing the script, I have trouble waking up at a reasonable time and not at dawn. For a while, I was able to get to bed pretty normally, but in the second half of my college years, I had to stay up late to get things done. It was not fun at all, and I'll get into how that all started later. Okay, so now I'm gonna talk about ways that college more or less screwed me over. I don't fully remember how this all happened, but let me explain something. At my school, you didn't get into the graphic design program right away. You would normally apply to get into the program after taking certain classes in the second year fall semester. My first advisor basically gave me bad scheduling advice, saying I didn't need to take a certain class right away. Mind you, I didn't have any control of how my first semester schedule looked. This meant that I couldn't apply for the program on time and was a whole semester behind everyone else, throwing my whole schedule out of whack for a good chunk of my time there. Thankfully, I didn't have that advisor for too long. For some reason, my advisor was changed a couple of times. I'm not sure how common that is in other colleges, but that's how it was with me. 2 of my graphic design professors were also my advisors for a time, including my type professor. I like her a lot better as my advisor than as my professor. My other professor was also my advisor for the longest time, and she gave me some pretty solid advice. Okay, this next point is something that almost everyone I talked to could relate to in my classes. In order to graduate, you had to take an internship outside of school for 100 hours. On top of that, you had to take a portfolio class and a BFA class during your very last semester. Sounds reasonable, right? It should be organized, right? No! They tell you to start looking for an internship during your second year, when you're not in the program and don't have a real portfolio. I get why they tell you to do this, but it's not at all practical. For comparison, when my sister had to do her internship, her school had a whole list of places the school was associated with that she could apply to. My school had nothing like that. They basically threw us to the wolves. I applied to I don't know how many places, and you know what I got out of it? 3 overall interviews with 1 acceptance. I had to compromise with my professors because it was taking so freaking long for me to find an internship. I was able to take my portfolio class a bit early, but they wouldn't budge for the BFA class. Because of this, I decided to extend my college time a bit by a year. The good thing about this was that I got to take some extra classes I was interested in. And so we get to the most personal part of the video for me, the existential. So I'm sure a lot of artists can relate to the feeling of inadequacy of your skills and doubting if you're even good. I definitely felt that throughout college, especially the second half. When I got into the graphic design program, I noticed that my work was pretty minimalistic compared to everyone else. I felt weird about it, but I thought it was just my style as a graphic designer. We all have them. It was all going okay until GD3 of my 4th year. Literally, the first day of class, I was chatting with some classmates and said that graphic design is basically art in marketing. I said that I wasn't really passionate about the marketing part of the thing, and that's when I realized I'm not passionate about the marketing part of graphic design, which is a huge part of graphic design. Meaning, I'm not passionate about graphic design. This sent me into a full-on identity crisis, and I started to realize a lot about myself. I've been telling myself for a good chunk of my life that this was what I wanted. I didn't truly know what graphic design was for a long time. In fact, I didn't know much of what I could do with my art. I just randomly decided on graphic design because that's what my uncle did. And now that I think about it, the more I learned about graphic design, the more turned off I was by it. This also made my GD3 class extremely stressful for me. We read different articles about graphic design, and it was really eye-opening to how much I don't think like a graphic designer. I'd listen to my friends talk about their projects and work, and those guys talked like graphic designers. And I just didn't get it. Most of our class was dedicated on rebranding a nonprofit organization, and it was hell. This was the class that had me stay up late to finish work for the first time in my life. You seriously should have seen my progress compared to everyone else. It was almost laughable. I know they say comparison is the thief of joy, but sometimes you genuinely can't help it. I almost wanted to cry every class, every critique that we had, seeing how minimal and bare bones and awful I was compared to everyone else. I started to question if I was even a good artist. Not for the first time, but it was a bit worse now. Before we go on, I want to explain a few things. I feel like a lot of high school art teachers are a bit closed-minded when it comes to art. I understand that a lot of teachers teach realism, but I honestly, for the longest time, felt restricted by realism. Don't get me wrong, I'm very good at realism, but when it comes to my own art style, it felt like it was holding me back. I don't know if I'm making sense, but that's how I felt. I didn't like how cartoony my art style was. One random day while visiting Puerto Rico, I decided to draw without worrying too much about realism. And you know what happened? I didn't hate it. I thought it looked good. It felt like Isabella from Encanto. Art doesn't have to be completely realistic or proportional or what have you. Sometimes it can be whatever, and that's great. Of course, my insecurities didn't go away completely. In fact, they only got worse with this existential crisis. I wondered whether I was a good artist at all, and I realized that graphic design wasn't what I wanted. I know I'm not the only one who's changed their mind about their career path, but I still felt ashamed. It was like I wasted so much time lying to myself about what I wanted, but I had already put so much time into the graphic design program. I was already in my 4th year at this point. What's a girl to do? Finish the degree, of course. The thing about art is that it's a total wild card. You can do anything with or without an art degree. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that illustration seemed more for me. This was the silver lining of taking an extra year. I was able to finally get an internship, which really deserves its own possible video, and I could take a few extra illustration classes to help me learn more about something I wasn't too familiar with. I'm not entirely sure how, but I was able to take a decent amount of illustration classes despite not being in the illustration program. Going back to GD3 real quick, but the final project was to come up with designs for a themed restaurant. My theme was circus and carnivals. Well, the icon that I randomly pulled was a clown, but like, come on, what am I gonna do, a freaking Pennywise themed restaurant? When I was pitching my idea to the class, I guess my professor saw my idea would be pretty illustration heavy. I don't remember if that's how I wanted it, but she sensed it. She asked me if I liked illustration, and I just said yes. It's possible to combine illustration and graphic design, so it's not like I'm wasting the stuff I learned in those other classes. At the same time, it all kind of felt like I was letting down the people around me with what I was doing. Spoiler alert, that was all in my head. I told my advisor that I wanted to do illustration with my career, and she was totally cool with it. She said graphic design students have done illustration before, and I don't remember how I thought I was letting my family down, but I felt it. I brought this up with my social worker, and I had a breakthrough moment. She asked if I was sure the expectations I was setting weren't mine, and another movie reference, but that was the D&D movie moment where Simon finally realized he was standing in his own way. The only person I was letting down was me. Fun! Before advanced illustration started, I sent an email to my professor explaining the situation, that I'm in the graphic design program and that I want to finish my degree, but I want to get into the illustration field. I know this was all a good thing for me, but it was extremely stressful. I felt behind everyone else who had already been in the program, and my other classes and the freaking internship didn't help either. I really was trying my best, but it felt like I wasn't even good enough to be there. During midterms of that year, my professor met up with us one by one to discuss our progress, and I was not in a good spot, to say the least. I had an overall C in the class so far. I felt so horrible. I really felt like a failure at that time. I was completely honest with my professor about everything, that I really wanted to be dedicated with my work, but there were multiple things going on that I felt like were holding me back. I wasn't trying to excuse myself, but it was true. I'm a little embarrassed to admit that I cried in front of my professor, but she was very nice and understanding about it. I just felt so stressed and ashamed and overwhelmed, and I felt like such a failure. Okay, at this point, I've really got to give a lot of love to my advanced illustration professor. She saw that I was struggling and gave me a lot of advice and feedback that I needed to hear, and I took it all in stride. By the end of the class, my work wasn't the best, but it was a major improvement from the start. I know my professor was just doing her job, but it meant so much to me, especially considering the spot I was in. In my very last semester, I took a class that she recommended, digital illustration, and that professor helped me out a lot too. She helped me realize how much I liked character design and opened my eyes to other possibilities and career opportunities, which is both exciting and scary. So, here we are. I graduated. What now? Honestly, I don't know. I still have a long way to go before I put myself out there professionally. I have a lot to learn about illustration, Photoshop, maybe character design in comics. Right now, I'm just taking my time to rest, hone my skills, and do my hobbies, which of course includes writing and making videos. Now before we go, let me share some nuggets of wisdom that I got from my college years. 1. Art can be anything, for better or worse. Everyone's art style is different, and that's okay. Something that a classmate told me that has kind of stuck with me is that art styles are kind of like handwriting. Everyone's is unique and says a lot about who they are. And she really liked my art style, which always feels kind of strange and flattering to me when people actually like my art style. There's no right way to do art, and it's important to learn techniques, yes, but don't beat yourself up too hard. 2. Your plans might change, and that's okay. They say college is a place to discover who you are, and in a way, it's true. I found that my initial career choice wasn't what I wanted, and I'm gonna learn more about the things I do want. You're probably gonna feel like crap for changing your mind, but again, don't beat yourself up too much. And finally, just be open to anything, to people, chances, risks, and what have you. This is rich coming from me since I'm not the most outgoing person and I don't have any in-person friends, but I still made some connections, even if they were just brief. I learned things about myself, got to take some pretty cool classes, and honestly, it's nice to have a space away from home. If anyone in my family is watching, I love you guys, but everybody needs space from each other sometimes. This art that I'm doing is actually an assignment from my figure drawing class. I don't remember what the instructions were, but it represents my identity crisis. I saw a fire in front of me and now I'm just trying to navigate away from it. Props to my classmate for suggesting I digitize it. I don't want to name names, but you know who you are. I hope. Honestly, not the best looking thing I've ever done, but I think it looks kinda cool. And if you're a guy named Sage who sat next to me during graduation, hey man, you're pretty cool. Shameless plug, but I'm gonna be starting a separate Instagram account just for my art. It's not gonna have any connection to this channel, it's solely for my professional art career and for posting progress and practice. I haven't posted anything on it yet, but if you want to support me or see how I grow professionally, please go follow it. I really hope at least some of you were able to take something out of my story. I don't know if I'll ever talk about anything as personal as this in the future, but we'll see. Let me know any college stories or lessons you have in the comments, and let me know how you feel about being called freaks. There's also a song that I like called Freaks. I don't remember who sings it, but look it up. And I kind of want to make an intro type thing for the channel, but I really don't know what that would look like with what I do. If you guys have any ideas, please let me know, I'll consider it. Also, with my new skills, I recently designed a new look for the channel. And honestly, my hair is purple in the avatar because I really like purple hair. The purple hair that I have currently is starting to fade, but I'm just letting it grow out to my natural hair color for a while, and after a few years I'll most likely re-dye it, but whatever. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and until then, I'll be in the fandom zone. Bye!